Mel, we'll open up at 12, eh?
We're live.
Are we live? Okay, is everyone in? There we go.
Hello, how are you, everyone?
Hi, guys. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Thanks, guys. We've got a whole bunch of you joining right on time, which is great to see. We've got about 60 people have RSVP'd for today, excluding Turritoans and our SendMark partners. So I'm going to give this another minute just for everyone to join. The numbers are almost 80 in total, which is amazing to see. Got a really good RSVP list and hopefully a good turnout today. Already got some people in the chat. Thanks, John. I would like to remind you all, as I'm going to set up to welcome you all today, please do open the chat. Feel free to ask questions and get involved. GIFs and memes are always welcome. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Happy Thursday. I'm joining from Cape Town. The weather's not great here, but I know the weather is wonderful in Joburg. So good to see you all here. Thanks for joining. I've looked at the RSVP list, and there are quite a few of you that have joined these sessions before. So the majority of the crowd today knows what we do here at Turrito. We're quite proud of these Bytes and Bytes sessions we have. We feel it's just a good platform to communicate with all of you. Pretty much everyone in the room is an IT professional, IT manager, CIO, executive, et cetera. So all of you are involved in some way, shape, or form with implementing technology in your businesses. And we find this is a great way to communicate what's out there, what's new, what's coming, and in this case, where we have new threats that we need to concern ourselves with. We always bring a new partner to the table. SendMark is not new. We have known SendMark for many years now, and we're very, very happy with their solutions, their service, and their products. And we've got JP, who's going to be our speaker today. So just a brief break. Feel free to take yourselves off mute, and let's everyone give JP a round of applause and a welcoming.
Thank you.
There you go.
JP. Just to clap. Well done.
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. And then, yeah, guys, please do stay on mute. Again, we've got a lot of us in the room. So I'm going to hand over to JP. He is an email security analyst at SendMark. Started basically on some DMARC and some basic things in the beginning, but now has moved into quite a broader technical email security role, and is able to talk to quite a few solutions. So he is the right guy for today. He's going to be talking us through not just, in our opinion, what you should already have, but give you a fair amount of insight into where email security is going, why it's such a risk. As we all know, users are the weakest link. And it's a constant issue for all of us in IT to manage users' interaction as best as we possibly can. And these products are going to help you guys do that. So without further ado, JP, let me hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to like sort of listen and watch what I have to say today. As Aaron's mentioned, my name is JP. I'm one of the email security analysts here at SendMark, and I'm just going to talk to you today about DMARC, our Lookalike tool, and our breach detection tool. But before I start the session, well, this is the beginning anyway, I just want to ask you guys a question, right? So how many of your customers have ever received a phishing email? How many of you have seen that phishing email, and actually like thought to yourself, wow, that actually looks pretty convincing? Most of us have. That's why phishing continues to be one of today's biggest cyber threats. Attackers don't need to fool everyone. It only takes one person. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my 3-door mythology. Right, so first we're going to look at the front door. So an email lands in the inbox of your customer from CEO@companyx.com asking for an urgent invoice to be paid. How do you actually know that email is coming from the CEO? The truth is you don't. Email was designed in 1971 when the internet was essentially built on trust. Today, the from address is simply a claim. Now, this is where SPF, DMARC, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC come in. SPF is your guest list, right? It lists the servers that are allowed to send mail on your behalf. DKIM is your tamper-proof seal. It proves that the email hasn't been intercepted during transit, and DMARC is your bouncer. It enforces both policies and tells the receiving server to either reject, quarantine, or accept that mail. A lot of companies today leave their policy at none. This does nothing for enforcement. DMARC is essentially in reporting mode and will take no action if one or both of those authentication methods fail. This happens because companies have no visual representation of what their outbound email sending habits look like and are too scared to make the policy move from to none to quarantine or for quarantine to reject because they are worried that something breaks. Our platform gives you that visibility. Now, once you've finally got the front door locked down, so you've got your domain to P equals reject, everything is authenticating as it should, attackers don't just stop. They simply start walking around your house looking for a new way in. So this is the bit where DMARC actually works great, just not for us. Attackers grab a lookalike domain, they set up DMARC on it because it's their domain, and they start firing off emails to your staff and the rest of the world. They lean on the tactic listed in these slides to fool a real person into trusting that domain. And the annoying part about this is DMARC can't do anything about that because technically the domain isn't lying about anything. It owns itself fair and square. So the only thing standing between an email and a bad day is the person who's reading it. One trick worth flagging, essentially, and honestly the laziest one, is the domain display name spoofing, right? The attacker doesn't even bother with a lookalike domain. They send from any address, a free Gmail account, a compromised mailbox, whatever. And they just set they set the display name to John Doe CFO. Most phones or inboxes show the name in front of the and center, but hide the real address unless you tap to expand it, right? DMARC's checking the domain, not that hidden address. Not the name you actually see in the email. So technically, the email being completely honest from where it's coming from, but the person reading it just never gets that part shown, essentially. So it's not a DMARC failure. DMARC was never checking that field. It's a reader awareness gap, and the cheapest and one of the ones that attackers essentially exploit the most. Now, if we look at the basement door, this is where things get personal. People use their corporate email address for everyday stuff. Online shopping, banking, online courses, that sort of thing. The truth is, the more of your life you add to that corporate email address, the easier it is for an attacker to find that one service that you use that they could compromise you through, or through a third party that you're using. Maybe you reuse a password and they use that password to gain access to our environments, right? Say your customers use their work email address to book restaurant reservations or plan book a date like date night, or even get glass spectacles delivered to their door, right? If an attacker gets wind of that, it's dead simple for them to spin up a lookalike domain and send that your customer or that person a voucher saying, hey, here's 50% off your next meal with us. Please scan this QR to get you get your 50% off your next order or meal, whatever the case may be, right? That quietly compromises your device, sometimes handing attackers straight access to an environment. Now, once malware is deployed on a device, it can steal saved passwords, grab URLs, or even hijack live sessions, which means it skips MFA entirely because it's not logging in. It's simply riding along a session that already exists. So how does DMARC stop someone logging in with legitimate credentials? It can't. It's not what it was built for. Now, every attack follows an attack chain, right? So, and like initially the breach starts, right? Might have nothing to do with your domain. It's a third party or a vendor getting breached, often completely invisible to you because we don't have visibility into other people's infrastructure, right? Those stolen credentials leak from a random shopping site, can have an attacker's keys to a corporate account, right? Before attacking, they research a target, who emails whom, what does the actual domain look like for that company, and who's the finance person, and who replies to the contact me forms. Using that information that they've learned, attackers register a lookalike domain almost identical to the one that you own. Because it's a domain they own, it passes authentication clearly. DMARC doesn't even see this as a problem. From that lookalike domain, they essentially would impersonate an exec with an email convincing enough to get someone to click a link, reset a password, or make a payment. This always ends up where the attacker ultimately wants it to end up, which is full business email compromise. The point here is you don't need to defend against everything perfectly. You just need to break one link. But DMARC only protects you against your primary domain. It was never designed to protect against lookalike domains that attackers control. It's a different problem that needs a different layer of protection. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to hop into the portal. I'm going to give you, it would just happen that it would lock me out. And I'm just going to show you our tool set essentially, MSP. So sorry about this.
No, thanks, JP. Let me just jump in there. So guys, I know everyone out there, a lot of what JP's just gone through is probably known to most of you. The reason we go through it is just to kind of set the stage again. But importantly, those slide decks are useful. You know, grab them, screenshot them. We're going to share them afterwards. We all know the drill. You've got to convince execs. You've got to convince the board. You've got to convince your CEO, whoever it is. And sometimes information like that actually helps to do it. We all know the problem with users, but the reality is, yeah, we've just got to do everything we can to make this as easy as possible. And, you know, credentials are going to be stolen, and we got to do everything we can to protect against it. So yeah, feel free to grab that information. Like I said, we will share it.
There we go. Almost there. So sorry about that. Okay, so what I've done, guys, is I'm actually using DMARC's. I'm going to use our domain to give you the best demo I can for lookalike domain defense and for breach detection. But I'm going to start with lookalike domain defense. So when the tool was sort of developed and brought out to customers, right? The idea we've started to see is that a lot of customers have no visibility into what lookalike held for their domain. Right, and the only way people tend to find out is when a customer has been attacked by a lookalike domain and reaches out to a partner or their security individual to say, we've just paid this invoice to this and I'm sorry, I'm using Turrito as the example, but this Turrito.net domain, do you guys own this domain? And then for the person whose domain it is for them to say, we don't actually own that domain, and now it's the first time anyone's kind of got visibility that a lookalike domain is even active, right? So we developed a tool to give people like visibility into this sort of this side of the attack where attacks could come from, right? So what the tool does is it gives you a culmination. So we've got a machine learning algorithm that generates lookalike domains that either could be used in the future or permutations that are currently in use now by attackers, right? Or by anyone who's trying to use domains that mimic yours that you guys don't manage. So our tool picks up 244 lookalike domains for DMARC, but that's not actually, these are not 244 active lookalike domains. It's again, a combination of everything together. Out of those 244, they've got 19 with web presence and 19 with mail enabled, right? So if we had to go and look, this is like a common typo, right? Instead of sendmark.com, it's sandmark.com. So if we went and had a look at that information, hello. Okay, so we can, with this information, right, we can actually see how far along this domain is to being active. If it is a lookalike domain, like there's always a little bit of investigation in here to go and see this is actually a legitimate company. So it's not an attacker's lookalike domain. It's someone in America who has a domain called Sandmark, but that's an investigation that would happen on your end when you looked at this data. But let's just say it wasn't, right? We could see we would eventually, if this lookalike domain was using Sandmark's brand, so the actual brand image, we would click on here and actually be able to see if they were actually like using your brand image for that lookalike domain, then we can start to look at how far along that lookalike domain is to being active. So whether they've done NS records, whether they have A records, MX records, BIMI, SPF, DMARC, the whole spiel, right? Because if a domain that you don't manage, right, that isn't a legitimate company, has DMARC record, that's probably a red flag, because it means that that domain is prepping to be able to send mail. And if it isn't a legitimate company, there's a good chance that is actually a lookalike domain. Now, there is still heavy lifting that needs to happen on a customer side from this, right? When we built the tool, we just were trying to offer as much visibility as possible. There is a new tool coming out towards the end of this year, if not this year, early next year, where we actually take all the heavy lifting for you. So there will be a takedown service where we would essentially do all the heavy lifting, and all you would have to do, you would essentially have the tool and our team would do all the work. Right now, we give you the information, and there's still some legwork on your side to either go and block that traffic or go to the domain registers and get the domain shut down. But the first thing that you can do with the information that is presented here is you can take this information, so you could take this domain and block it on your own proxy, right? So that covers your own internal staff. The next bit you can go and do, and it's always a better proactive step than a reactive one, is to, if we picked up 10 lookalike domains here, right, that we didn't manage, that didn't exist weren't actually real domains listed for real companies around the world, we could take that information, block it on our own firewall, and then take that same information, send an email out to all of our partners and customers and say to them, guys, we're trying to be proactive about our security and yours. We've picked up these 10 lookalike domains in the wild. Please can I ask you to just block this traffic on your proxy and supply that information to me? I feel like it's a much better strategy to have than for it to be reactive, where if something happens that's already played out.
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in there for a sec, JP.
Yes,
and just an apology to everyone. It does seem that JP is sort of halting a little bit. Unfortunately, that's just teams being teams, I expect, because when we share screens, sometimes it gets a bit jumpy. So yeah, it's not too bad, JP. We're still definitely getting the majority of what you're saying. For me, just on that point, the usefulness of proactive monitoring with this, for me, is tremendous. It doesn't just give you the ability to reach out to customers and say this is a fake domain, but it gives you the ability to communicate within the business. And I'm sure most of you can appreciate this. When there is spend on all the tools we need to spend to protect our organizations from a cyber perspective, to be able to proactively show people who are in charge of that spend that there is value. If you can grab a lookalike domain and say, see, this is dodgy, don't worry, we stopped it. That's tremendous. It's very rare that we're able to so easily show value in a proactive manner, especially when it comes to cybersecurity spend. Too many people think of it as a grudge purchase. And then, of course, as soon as there is an event, then everyone opens their wallet and they're happy to spend. But prior to an event, it's a much tougher sell. This for me is a big deal. Being able to proactively show something looks dodgy here, someone's starting to plan to attack us. Hopefully that doesn't happen. We know it's kind of inevitable, perhaps, especially with AI. It's a big thing. So for me, yeah, big win there. JP, back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so the last thing before I move on to breach detection here is there are alerts set up for lookalike domains. So let's just say you turn on the tool, we set up the alerts, you get an alert this week. An attacker works on a bunch of domains, you'll get a list of domains that the attacker worked on with the changes that happened. Say the following week, an attacker decides they take their hands off the lookalike attack chain and no data changes for your domain for that week, right? Because you can set your alerts weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever the case may be. SendMarc's not going to inundate you with like data that you already were presented with the week before. Alerts will only be sent out when new data arises in the platform. So you're not going to be reviewing the same data every week, and you might not even receive any reports if no new data is displayed. My point to this is you're only going to receive alerts for stuff when it's important. You're not just going to be looking at the same data week after week. Okay, so that's lookalike domains in a nutshell. The next tool I'm going to talk about is our breach detection tool, right? What this tool does is it actually gives you visibility of any third-party system in the world where data is stored the linking to your company work email address, and that data is siphoned from that service, right? And it can be anything. So what I see a lot happen these days is people using their work email address for convenience-based services. I had a conversation with someone a year ago, CEO of a company who used his work email address to book restaurant reservations at the steakhouse at Turn and Tender. And he said to me, JP, you've got a cool story and all, but there's no way I believe that me using my work email address to book restaurant reservations at Turn and Tender is ever going to compromise my business. And I said, cool, do you mind if we unpack this a little bit, right? Because when if someone wants to attack someone, they do a ton of investigation before an email is even sent out. So what I asked him to do on the call was do you mind if we go into your Facebook and Instagram? Because I wanted to show him kind of how social engineering works. He said, sure, no problem. No privacy settings on his Facebook, no privacy settings on Instagram. So I could see all the photos, and I could see photos of him at Turn and Tender with his wife. And his wife is great nights with the hubby, and she just takes photos of them at the steakhouse because they go regularly. So now I know that they are frequent users of Turn and Tender, right? Which means I know they use the service. He's just admitted to me on the call that he uses his corporate email address to book restaurant reservations at this place. So what's stopping me from spinning up a lookalike domain, right, for Turn and Tender, that I mimic the domain so closely that the person that I'm trying to attack doesn't realize it's a lookalike domain. I send them a QR code from Turn and Tender saying, thank you for being such a loyal customer of ours. Please scan this QR code to get 50% off your next meal. Because the person who's using that third-party service never feels like they're going to be attacked from it, the chances of them thinking twice before scanning the QR code is nearly at zero. They don't have a defensive mindset, so they're not going to take the precautions when receiving information like that. They're going to scan that QR code. Those QR codes are laced with malware nowadays called QR code phishing. And then that quietly compromises your device, right? And then the next day you end up, the CEO ends up going into his office or whatever the case may be, puts his phone into the network, and there's a good chance you've now got the CEO, you've essentially given an attacker access to an environment, right? So that's why the visibility is so important for any service linked to anyone in your business, especially the important people in your business. But it's good to have visibility of what data is being siphoned from infrastructures that you don't have visibility into. Okay, so let's start here. I'm going to start with, okay, so the reason why I'm doing this, guys, is because at DMARC, we like to be as transparent as possible about the data that we have. Plus, all of this stuff has already been remediated, so there's no gaping holes here. But I'm going to try and find something for you. Okay, so we'll start here, right? So Crunchbase, right, this was a breach that happened 2nd of Feb 2026. So we can give you a lot of information about the actual service that was breached. So Crunchbase in this case, we have two types of data on the platform. You've got publicly available information, and I'll try to find some privately listed information. Publicly available information that we've displayed here is information that any traditional dark web scanner in the world would be able to detect for you, right? Because it's sitting on a public forum on the dark web. So essentially, I could go into the dark web with an onion router on my PC, and I'd be able to find this information because it's sitting somewhere publicly, right? Let me see if I can find something else for you that has private. Where's all this stuff? There we go. Okay. So now you see something listed as private, right? What that means is this information is sitting on a database that people who, if you went, as a public viewer of the dark web, you will never have access to. Traditional dark web scanners will never display this information because it's sitting somewhere in a private database, private Discord channel, Telegram group, somewhere where attackers only have access to this information. So we get our information from a third-party supplier, right? We have ethical hackers posing to be threat actors inside these threat actor groups. And when they spin up a data storage area on the internet, I'll siphon information from Aaron as an attacker. I won't keep it locally on my machine. I'll upload that to a data storage area that I manage and that people within my threat actor group have access to. And then we'll store the information there, alter the information as we want, and then reshare that information publicly on the dark web for more money, right? So you will see, you'll probably find that this information later on in the year will be listed as public because it will eventually be shared in a public forum somewhere. But we can see in this particular one, they were going for his HubSpot login, and they happened to get his clear text password for HubSpot, right? We have these clear text passwords in the background, but we never display them on the portal just for security reasons. They're always in an obfuscated manner just to keep security at top of mind. But if you did want to have this information or you wanted that clear text password, a private session could be set up where we would be able to display that, give you that information privately as opposed to publicly in a setting like this. Now, I did miss this part. So we've got a couple of severities, right? A low is going to be an email address, no PII attached to that, no password leaked. A moderate is going to be an email address, PII from that particular website. So it could be hair color, demographic, street name, cell phone number, whatever you were actually had to give that website to gain access, right? And then it could be a password leaked as well. But when it comes through as a moderate, it means that the password that was leaked from that third-party infrastructure was encrypted, right? So it was a hashed password, but we still display that password in an obfuscated manner on the platform. I know it feels like it's okay if the password is encrypted, it's not really an issue. That was probably true 5 years ago, but AI has made it exceptionally easy for people to crack hash passwords. I know someone who's come out of varsity 2 years ago who used AI to build a tool that cracks 14-character hash passwords in 24 hours. So he takes a hash password, plugs it into his AI tool, clicks enter, comes back the next day, and has got a clear text password to work with. AI can do that on a huge level with hundreds and thousands of hash passwords. It can do that in a matter of days, where I think a human being would have taken a lot of legwork to get that done manually back in the day. Okay, so what I'm just going to do for you for a second is I just want to put this on screen. The coolest part, okay, we've got another severity, right, which we were just looking at. That is a high, right? That's going to be email address, clear text password for the attacker obfuscated version of that password on the platform for us, plus sensitive PII. So that could be credit card information, any real sensitive information that was siphoned from a third-party infrastructure would be displayed in that particular breach. Now, this is my most favorite thing to talk about when it comes to breach detection, is we're actually able to give you visibility of when malware has been downloaded. So I send Aaron an email, a very clever email. I get him to click on a link. It downloads a piece of malware onto a device that he's running. And then I steal that information. So I steal his URLs, I steal his passwords, I steal a bunch of information from him, right? If you're running managers to detect that there's malware on this device, right? Your security team would go to Aaron and say, hey, Aaron, we've just got an alert that you were compromised. Do you remember what you accessed from 8 until 11 this morning? Aaron tries to knock off all the URLs that he accessed, but because of the I'm sorry, Aaron, you're only the person I can see. That's why I'm using you as the example. But maybe Aaron doesn't
100% fine.
Perform well under pressure, right? So the team comes to him, now you're thinking, I've compromised the business. I've been compromised. It's so embarrassing. So you did access 10 URLs, but Aaron was only able to give us 5, right? So based off the information that we get from the user who was compromised, we go and remediate those URLs. So we go to those URLs, reset the passwords, yada, yada, yada. We go through that, right? We think as the security team that we've done our job and blocked all the holes because of the information that we got from Aaron. But Aaron wasn't able to give us everything because of pressure, right? With our tool, what it does is we give you, now the guessing game is gone, essentially. We know exactly what URLs were accessed, right? We know each password that was used for each of those accounts. So now we start to look at Aaron. Is Aaron a high-risk user? Is he reusing passwords across multiple accounts? And do any of those passwords that he's using mimic his 365 password? Because obviously that's the golden ticket to an environment and the least password we essentially want to be leaked on the internet, right? Then we go a step further and we can actually give you the machine ID, the infected machine ID where that malware lives. So now you've got a complete remediation from beginning to end. We know exactly what was accessed, so we can go to each of those URLs. We go and reset the passwords for each of those accounts. We do some user education based on what we see his habits to be here. So is he reusing passwords, which this particular user is? And then we can go to the actual machine where that malware lives, pull that machine off the network, wipe that machine clean, and then put it back on the network safely, knowing that it's completely malware free. Things to keep in mind here, guys, is we give visibility of the data. This is not like the way I think about this is, right, we all rely on systems to detect if something happens, right? So you're running an EDR or something like that. It's meant to detect these things on your network. This platform, or the dark web in itself, right, is a fail-safe. No tool is 100% efficient, and there's always stuff that's missed, right? So let's just say you are running an EDR tool. It doesn't trigger any information, or it doesn't trigger an alert to you when somebody's compromised. But then what an attacker does is he goes and uploads this data to the dark web, right? As soon as he uploads this data to the dark web, you get wind of that data. You see the compromise because the attacker has now made it visible to you on a platform like the dark web. Now, if something is missed, the platform is there to show you the gap, to show you what a system probably missed or didn't pick up. And even if a system did pick it up, eventually that information is going to be shared on the dark web anyway, and you would then see the correlation between what your EDR essentially picked up and what is being shared on the dark web. Aaron, that's pretty much it from me from a presentation standpoint. I just want to know if anyone's got any questions.
Great. Thanks, JP.
No problem.
Guys, open to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for JP?
Yeah.
Go for it.
JP, I just wanted to ask, given that this intelligence comes from, I was just talking about the private threat actor communities, what measures do you take to verify the actual authenticity of the data and minimize any kind of false positive before alerting the customers?
Sure.
And this is probably the strongest part that I see.
So this is it's a difficult question to answer because we've signed an NDA with this particular company, right? But we're not just getting our data from any old source. The company that we've partnered with are the leaders in the world of in terms of recapturing stolen credentials. So they've got their ethical hackers that sit in these community groups, and basically their job is to recapture, infiltrate infrastructure, infiltrate like community groups and recapture the credentials. I wish I could give you the company's name, but it's just something I can't do. I need to speak to the team to see if there's somewhere around this, because I feel like if people knew, if we were able to tell you who supplied us our data, it would make people feel a lot comfortable. I come up with this question, comes up quite a bit, and it's to answer because of the NDR itself.
And then just one more question. I can see that one of the key takeaways with CENMARC's value, it lies in providing early access to private breach intelligence.
Yes.
Often before stolen credentials are leaked onto public dark web forums, like you've demonstrated, and then that'll obviously enable any organization to respond faster and reduce the risk. So. So if compromised credentials are identified before they become public, what's like the average reduction in dwell time or breach impact you've seen for customers who actually act immediately?
And look, this is where it gets a bit difficult, right? Like there's always a lag. There can be. I've seen scenarios here where an attacker attacks one of our customers, right? So I attack Aaron. As I'm attacking Aaron, I upload this data to the dark web. So it's like a live exfiltration of data from an infrastructure straight onto a private data storage area on the dark web, right? So it's live. That's probably that's what you want, right? And the easiest to remediate. The thing about the platform itself, and to always keep in mind, is I can attack Aaron and I can sit on this data for 3 weeks. I can actually not upload it anywhere for 3 weeks and then decide to upload it for week 4, right? That is a 4-week gap between where the initial compromise happened and when the data was essentially shared on our platform. But we do find, like, what I do see, a lot of people are quite surprised by what people in their company are linking to their work email address, right? And it's the convenience-based service stuff. Because people don't feel like I've seen checkers and Pick and Pay being linked to someone's corporate email address. That in itself is a worry, right? Because it just means that person doesn't have, they're not taking, there's a lot of responsibility, I think, that comes with a corporate email address. It's not actually your email address, it's a company's email address. You need to be very careful with what you link it to. Because
realistically, it's happening all the time too, right? Like Checkers is a good example. Like you've got the Checkers 6060 app, and maybe you want something from Woolies, you download that app as well. And then, maybe there's a Pick and Space special. So now you're on the Pick and Pay app or whatever that might be. Every single time we're engaging more and more as humanity, there is another app, there's another platform you're engaged on, there's another opportunity for you to put your email credentials into. And again, as IT professionals, we're paying attention to it. Nobody else is. There's always something compelling, whether it's to download a game for your kid on their device, whatever it might be. The easiest thing to do is to use your work email address. Nobody's doing the math on what the dangers are. And again, if you've got 50 users, 100, 600, you can just extrapolate that risk factor across absolutely everyone. They're using their credentials, and you need a tool to be able to identify where that is to stop that behavior, or at the very least, notify them. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's good, John Paul. I've seen some horror stories because it comes down to response, end user response. You have to respond quite quick, especially now that they're weaponizing AI to break into all these credentials and getting them. So, beyond notifying customers of exposed credentials, does DMARC provide any automated remediation, like such as password resets or identity risk scoring or integration with Microsoft Entra ID or IAM platforms to give you some kind of heads up before anything happens?
So we essentially just surface the data.
Okay.
Right, so the remediation and stuff is still on your end. We essentially just give visibility of the data as it's uploaded to a data storage area on the platform. The thing to try and think about here, for the most part, is the strongest part of this tool is the fact that it's giving you visibility into data that's much earlier in your attack chain, right?
Yeah.
And don't think about like a third party. Like imagine Standard Bank. If Standard Bank gets breached, people use their work email address for that. What's the likelihood of Standard Bank picking up the phone and calling those people to say this is the data that was compromised? Probably it's zero.
Yeah.
Because Standard Bank's and it's a bad example, right? But I mean, it is the truth. Standard Bank's reputation is the thing that they think about first, not company safety or customer safety. If they come out and just say we just had 300,000 people's credentials breached on the day it happened, their stock is going to plummet, right? People are going to feel like they can't trust Standard Bank anymore. So they'd stay quite quiet about the information that was siphoned. Let's say they happen to steal your CEO's cell phone number, right? And you didn't know that. And now that's a whole new attack chain and a whole new sort of attack window that's opened up through a cell phone number that you didn't even know an attacker has, because you didn't know that that information was actually that someone gave that information to Standard Bank or whatever the case may be to access that site. So the information we give you is much earlier in your attack chain. It means that you can essentially stop an attack before it even becomes a problem, or at least start training users on the risk versus reward when using your MyFitness app with your company email address, you know what I mean? Or booking restaurant reservations, or getting glasses delivered to your door, or even using it for banking. It's just going to help weigh up those sort of pros and cons. From the malware perspective, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it does come down to when an attacker wants to upload that information. 10 years ago, right, attackers I would have siphoned information from Aaron. I would have sat on that information, right? Played with it, whatever I need to do, and then resold it on the dark web later, maybe with a fake password or something, because they sell combo lists to try and make extra money. But nowadays, they've got like a threat actor group that works in Russia, another threat actor group that works like in France, another one in America, and they talk to each other, because over the years they've realized that if I share my attack strategies with Aaron, I can actually make my own attack strategy stronger. So they tend to share information much faster, right? So you've got a lot. All breach detection is going to do is it's going to bridge a gap, right? It will give you visibility into a security net that not everybody has access to.
Yeah.
We all rely on stuff reactive. So you're relying on it to hit your systems first before you start to do anything about it. You're getting visibility into data that attackers actually start to use before they attack your business.
Okay, great.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so I've just seen some very terrible horror stories. I've seen people's entire pension stolen from stuff like this.
Yeah.
And the remediation and the response is quite important. Yeah, but thanks for that. That's all my questions. Thanks very much.
No problem, sir.
Thanks. JP, I think you can actually just switch off the slide deck as well, just to be sure we keep a good connection on Teams.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions out there? Here we go. I've got something on the chats. How is it that attackers are able to know so much about the internal structure of the company? For example, we had an attempt recently where there was a request sent to our CFO to authorize payment, and they pretended to be our newly appointed MD. How are they able to establish and maintain the chain of command?
So I'm just reading now.
Happy to take it as well, JP, if you want me to.
Thank you, Andre.
Sorry,
yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
perfect.
Yeah.
Andre.
Yeah, so Adesh, that's a great question. Thanks for the question. So Adesh, what we generally see is threat actors are quite good at doing reconnaissance, right? And obviously understanding movements and movements, especially in the executive chain in businesses, right? And what that predominantly means is they monitor things like LinkedIn feeds. People are very quick to boast about their new role that they're starting at a company, right? Or where there's a merger and acquisition of a company happening. And platforms like LinkedIn is a very easy way to get information because some people expose their corporate email addresses in these platforms. And then it's just a matter of trying to identify which people they interact with, which people are common people that they deal with or transact with on platforms like LinkedIn. And then you can very quickly try to find some form of an attack or mimic some form of an attack to that person. What we often see in this space is where people would execute attacks where they would look for new interns at a company. Let's say there's a new intern that starts at DMARC or a new intern that starts at Turrito, and they would say, hey, it's Aaron here. Can you please go and buy these gift cards because we're running this competition for our customers, and I want you to scratch off these gift cards and actually sing me the codes. And that way, they obviously extort money out of the business too. So that's another thing just to be careful of. I hope that answers your question, Adesh.
Thanks, Andre. That's great. Some questions on costing. Sean is asking what the platform costs. Is it included if it's already subscribed to SendMark? I think for commercials, we'll probably engage directly. And I think on that topic, I can handle a couple of other things as well. Is just a reminder to everyone in the group, the purpose for us now is really shotgun approach. We want to give you guys a sort of broad understanding of what this is, what the platform's capable of. But of course, we can't really delve too much into it. What we'd really love to do is sit with you guys individually. Once we sit with you, SendMark's got great tools. We're able to show you a little bit more about where there are attack surfaces on your business that are open. And we can delve into a lot more information because it's just us and you. So those demos, we would absolutely tell you guys, call us afterwards. All of our account managers are going to be in touch with you after this session. And really, please have a session with us. Our solutions architect and the SendMark solutions architects will be in those meetings. We'll give you real kind of actionable data that you can see that actually speaks to your specific environment, specific users, and again, where those attack surfaces are. All the commercials will then be shared based on what your requirements are. We'll obviously delve into all the different types of the products and what they are, and whether or not that's just you putting it into budget for next year or actually engaging right now and saying, we don't have the solution, we need it right now. We are seeing these threats already on a daily basis. Or even worse, one of our people fell for this last year. It cost us a couple $100,000. We, again, have also seen some horror stories. We've seen 2.5 million Rand being paid to an international supplier last year. We have seen completely fictitious LinkedIn profiles for some of our customers. It's really unbelievable what's going on right now in terms of both social engineering and then just absolutely dead, basic, simple email impersonation. It doesn't even have to be complicated. People are falling for email impersonation. You know, it's all well spelled. It looks perfect. The titles are there. The email signatures are spot on. You know, the bad actors finally learned to speak English beautifully with the help of AI. So gone are the days of badly spelled phishing emails about 419 scams. Like the game is completely changed. Some other comments. Thanks, guys. Brief explanation of the BIMI solution.
Happy to take that as well.
I'm not sure if you want me.
So,
Andre?
Thank you.
so from a BIMI standpoint, BIMI is an enhancement of DMARC, right? It's an extension of DMARC. So I often say, if you look at BIMI, BIMI is basically where BIMI was, or where DMARC was in about 2017, 2018. Not a lot of people talking about it. It's not mainstream adoption by all providers, right? When we talk about BIMI, BIMI is a way for you to represent your brand's logo upon successful authentication of email messages, meaning for BIMI to work, you have to have DMARC quarantine or DMARC reject at least implemented inside of the organization's DMARC record, right? When we then basically look at customers that are eligible for BIMI, there's a few things that we have to consider. There's two types of BIMI certificates that you can procure. You can procure a CMC, which is a common mark certificate, which is a newer version of a BIMI certificate. It's something they released in, I believe it was November of 2025, right? And then there's the older traditional BIMI, which is the VMC, which is the Verified Mark Certificate. But the Verified Mark Certificate has one caveat, and that is that you have to have international trademark in a supported trademark office that DigiCert supports, in this case, registered for the logo and for the brand, right? Which makes it quite hard for South African businesses most of the time, because most people have CIPC registration in South Africa. So it's just something to think about. But the CMC is the ideal answer for that, right? So if you are doing a lot of business to consumer based traffic, I definitely think it's something to consider. If the logo, it makes your brand stand out, and it's something that you often see your customers recognize brand recognition through your logo, then it's definitely something I would encourage you to look at as well.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Anything else? Any other questions? We will be sharing the recording. There is a lot of information we've shared. Thanks, JP. You got through it all quickly and on time, which is brilliant. But absolutely, guys, the slide deck will be shared. We will share the recording. As I said, we're going to be in touch with all of you as well, and have further conversations about this. And again, I really do implore you, let us do the full demos. Let us engage with you. Again, you don't need to sign. This is not a sales pitch. The value for us, you know, we do these sessions all the time. Again, we want to be sure that we're sharing as much information as we possibly can with our existing customers, as well as some prospective customers. I know not all of you are customers yet. We hope you do become part of the family. We've got excellent relationships with suppliers like Sendmark and a whole host of others. So we're always quite happy to bring more solutions to more people. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, JP. Thank you, Andre, for stepping in there. JP, great. Well done. Love it. And again, guys, we'll share everything. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're sort of 10 to 13 minutes ahead of schedule here. Either you've already had your lunch or you're going to now. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone. Look after yourselves out there and enjoy the rugby this weekend and for the next month. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank you.